Hello, all. This is Jedi Steve, and Corona will be joining me in a little bit, and maybe other people will be joining us soon. This is Sex Positive Post Me Too. So, in this climate, half the women are don't like aggressive men, and half the women like aggressive men. Some women, even that there's lots of things that go into it culturally. Some women are sex positive, and there's many different facets to go around this. So we want to have a conversation that kind of is inclusive to guide people for. Let me see. Oh, there we go.
Manifested. Here I am. Hey, cool shirt.
Yeah. So, sex positive. I can't hear you. I still can't hear you. Speak.
Speaking.
Okay, I can hear you. So, what does sex positive mean to you?
Healthy sex. Conscious.
Healthy. So it's something that can be defined in like the dictionary, but also it can be defined for individually for me, individually for you, individually when you come together with two people. And also it may change to sometimes. Sometimes you may feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. And one of the things I was saying before you got on, and I didn't know you heard about this, is like, and when we're talking in this conversation, we're talking about sex positive. I want to speak about the whole gamut, but we'll leave out sexual assault. For this conversation.
Wanted to ask this question because I was earlier in a conversation with one of my friends, and she asked, what is sex? And I think that's a better question to ask. What is sex? Because it brings up even more questions. Like, is it between a man and a woman? Is it between a vagina and a penis? Can it be called sex if there was no orgasm? Or does that mean that someone was just the tool for masturbation? These are all questions that I kind of wanted to bring into the conversation as well. So what is sex, right? I think we should start there.
Yeah.
What is sex?
So one of the things that you said appeared to be a lot of confusing to me. So you can have, because you just kind of broke it down to men and women. And I know you're not like that, but in your words, you broke it down to just men and women. So you're asking if like penetration officially makes it sex. So the intimacy I may share with one of my Lyft passengers, or the intimacy I may share with somebody that is the barista at Starbucks just as I'm ordering a drink. Sex, making love, sex within marriage would be at one edge of the spectrum. So we'd probably start with intimacy, and then we'd go all the way to sex or making love. What's that?
I don't know, because a lot of times intimacy isn't a part of the transaction of sex. And I see you said you wanted to leave the Me Too out of this, but
not the Me Too, but the final sexual assault, because we're saying sex positive post Me Too. Because a lot of men, even though half the women, and this is my number, know that this is a feeling. I've polled a lot of people. Um, the I'm saying sex positive post Me Too, because the Me Too was all about a lot of women thinking that no women liked aggressive men. So when I say aggressive men, have you ever had a argument with somebody and then did some makeup sex? That can be fun to a certain level. It can get really fucking old, but it can be fun to a certain level. But also you can do that in a healthy way. What I'm saying is not have the fight, but have the little fun argument. Example, uh, I had some consensual sex, one night stand with somebody totally sober, and I told her I was going to punish her at some times. That turned her on, and I wasn't. I was just like saying little things. Most women that I've come across like their hair pulled, so I would consider those things aggressive. Some Sometimes somebody might consent to vagina penetration, but they're not. They don't like anal, so you're not consenting just to the sexual act. You have to consent to certain points. Does that make sense? So one of the things I want to do with this is not compliment things. And we're speaking from our own experience. And we have to decide what we like and what our boundaries are. So when we come together, people can decide what their like and their boundaries are. I believe that I shouldn't meet somebody that's drunk and then not under, because I don't feel you can consent when you're drunk. I do believe borderline pass out if you're in a relationship or if you know somebody, you have like a relationship could be friends with benefits. You could you could consent to, yeah, if I have a couple beers when they're sober, if I have a couple beers, I'm cool with us hooking up. But even if you're married and your wife's passed out, that's no bueno.
Give me one quick sec.
Okay. So while she's gone, I wanted to introduce Mickey Mouse. Brought Mickey a long way of explaining other things. Hello, all. I bet a lot of you didn't know that that Disneyland is the happiest on earth. But I think it's your titties. So, let's talk about kinky. Yeah, Mickey. Um, all that made me feel a little uncomfortable. And remember, I told you you cannot flirt with Corona. She's my good friend, and I will fuck you up if you get aggressively flirting with Corona like that. Okay? Go ahead.
I had to do a change of
Yeah, I
space.
noticed that. I noticed that.
Yeah, I was dealing with some.
And also, I would like to address one of the things, and one of the things that complements that is there's a lot of shame that came up in your face when that person was around when you were doing it.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and this is affects men too. And I know there's certain things that you're probably comfortable talking around your mom, aunt, uncle, grandmother that I wouldn't be particularly comfortable talking about.
I'm well. I like to say that I I tend to be unfiltered when it comes down to a lot of things. Um, there is shame, obviously, that comes up, guilt, all of those feelings. Um, but I always try to speak my mind, right? Whether it's taken good or bad, that's always something that makes me feel some type of way. But I try my best to be unfiltered, to be unapologetic about what I say and why I say it, because there's always a reason.
Corona, I have a question for you.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Do you think that Jedi Steve is wearing that shirt because with the Magnum large condoms because he's insecure about something?
It could be. I don't know. Or maybe it's because that's his favorite brand.
Mickey, I invited you. Do not make me look bad. Do not make me look bad. So the elephant in the room when we're trying to do these have these situations, the elephant in the room are those emotions like shame and the different. So sometimes they come up, sometimes they may not come up. They may not even come up for 20 years, and they may come up at a certain time. And I'm talking about not well, that's why I wanted to leave sexual violence out of the situation, because I didn't want to blame people in that situation. I wanted people to be clear of what they're feeling and be able to communicate it and get better at being able to communicate it. So when we're in these different situations, we don't say, well, I'm just gonna, oh, that guy says I can just come over to his house, and then be real that guy might expect something, and that's not necessarily right. And you may feel guilty, and you may do something that you didn't necessarily want to do, and actually be consenting, but also not be able to. And I'm not talking about violence, and I'll say that a lot of times. I'm not talking about violent anything, and I'm not talking about any sexual assault. I'm talking about cultural norms that might happen. Like, for instance, I'll give something that's outside of that. Somebody might listen to somebody and this is for other stuff, not sex, making love, or anything like that. Somebody might listen to and follow something, or listen to somebody and think they're right just because they're older. That's a real societal norm, that people might listen to authority when they're in a situation. So I think I addressed this at one point in one of the other. There are women that have rape fantasies, and and I heard the reason why this is because a lot of the church says don't have sex until married, so they want to kind of be tricked. When we're talking fantasies, we're not talking actual sexual assault. They don't want to be tricked into they don't. Society says you can't do that, so they kind of will put them in situation to like let it happen. And then but also like it's a consensual
psychological thing, right? Like, oh, don't eat these cookies. The first thing you want to do is go eat them cookies.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the clear thing, that people have an understanding. And there's certain things that the church isn't 100% right. There's things that can happen based on having sex. I believe that when you do have sex with multiple partners, you're putting your energy out there a lot more.
But question, I mean, sex requires penetration?
There's oral sex.
Sex requires stimulation of the genitals? Yes? No?
So, and I may have these numbers aren't the same. So first base would be kissing.
That's sex? Or is that
intimacy? No. First base is no. That's not sex yet.
Okay.
Let me run through the bases, and let's get the bases for this conversation at the right thing, so we agree on them.
Okay.
And then we can figure out which base is sex.
Okay.
Okay. So second base would be like rubbing boobs. I think that's what second base is. And then third base would be like penetration with the finger. maybe oral sex. And this is the adult ones. And then home base would be penetration.
And ejaculation?
Doesn't necessarily have to be ejaculation.
Hmm.
That'd be a grand slam. We'll put that as grand slam. So
that made me hungry. I want Denny's now.
we'll leave that one alone. Mickey wanted to say something, but we're leaving that one alone. So I would say third base would actually be sex, and first and second base would be intimacy.
Okay.
And then I've heard people break it down like in between bases is like something. So I would say just like a step off a home base would be what I was talking about earlier between having that intimacy with somebody that's at Starbucks or with the waitress or just like flirting would be in between home and first.
Okay. And some people run past those bases or don't even touch the bases and they just run to base number 3 per se.
That's what society says that men do.
Interesting.
That hasn't been my experience, but that's what society says.
Mm. I can see that.
So before we get into some other stuff, how important to you is smell to be romantic?
I think I would place smell as a higher thing of importance, because to me the scents can either bring about like some good pheromones. To me, scent can excite me. It can make me kind of equate cleanliness or health to a person, or you know, make me believe that someone is more clean than not.
So do you believe that smell is a social construct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it could be you could be attracted to somebody because they wear the same cologne that your first boyfriend did. So it's
because it's in memory too.
Yeah. And in Mexico, depending on the different areas, it could be different. In India, there could be different smells that are attracted to people. But I'm sure there are some things that align for all cultures. It's like everything. So based on the basis, it's the same thing as that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that stuff, and it's one of the reasons why I'm being vague, but I think it's important that people define that anytime that they're thinking about getting intimate or having sex or making love to somebody. It's important that they define that stuff between themselves. It's the consent. It's that conversation. You don't necessarily have to bring it up on the first date, but you do have to bring it. I believe you have to bring it up before, even if it's like a one night stand. You should be communicating with that person in some way, monitoring if you're on the same page.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
How come all of you are listening to Jedi Steve when he lost his virginity? He lost his virginity when he was 23. His last semester in college. How come you guys are listening to him? Mickey, that was private. I didn't want everybody to know that, but I made up for it after. I doubt it. Please, we're going to have to edit that out. Anybody that saw that, where's my Men in Black pen? I don't have it, but delete that from your mind. I can't believe I invited
We
Mickey.
can't see what we already saw.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Mickey. Oh, thanks. Somebody's laughing at me. Thank you a lot. Thank you. That's beautiful. I'm glad I could be the butt of all your jokes. So, and I may get this word wrong, but follow my concept. So, in Indian culture, which there's a billion people and there's many different languages in India, they have a thing called vinyasa. And vinyasa, and don't ask me how to spell, vinyasa is your vibe, but they call it it's a smell, but it's your vibe. So Mickey wants to say something. So I have a good line for Indian women from India, not Native Americans. I say, wow, you're beautiful. You gave me Bollywood. Mickey, that's what we're talking about. In today's world,
Bollywood.
post you can't make jokes like that. Sorry, I apologize for Mickey. I mean, I can take the jokes that he makes on me, but that was culturally inappropriate, and it was very sexual, like bad. Can't say that shit in the workplace or even in your Lyft or Uber. So that's that vinyasa, that vibe that everything has. I've heard to the extent, and I'm not to this level, or I don't necessarily know if this is true or not, but everything has a vibe. I get that, but some people will talk about everything is just a vibe. So a lot of the stuff we're seeing isn't necessarily real. It's a vibe. So people have a vibe, and as we're growing and evolving, we're attracting these different vibes. So with that smell, what do you want? What do you want to attract in as being a sex positive individual? What smells do you want to attract? What type of you want a smart person as a partner? Do you want to just have a friends with a benefit? What are you trying to attract in this situation? What vinyasa are you aligned with? And the best way to attract that is to be that. And I'm not saying, like, a lot of times, one of the things that frustrates me, how women, okay, I gave a ride to a guy that he had friends that said this particular guy was successful with women, and he was above average, but not way above average looking. But he said the line he used, and he's in his 20s, mind you. The line he uses at bars is that, and it's a true thing, he did 6 years in prison. And and the other guys that were firemen, his friends, he wasn't a fireman, but the other guys they're saying, it's like, he's like, oh, you shouldn't use that. He goes, no, I use that and it works. And I was like, fuck, man, I can't believe that kind of pissed me off.
What the phrase that he used?
What's that?
I said, what's the phrase that he used?
That he was in prison for 6 years.
So people like him because he's like a bad boy or something?
Yeah, so it's what I was telling you about that makeup sex. You can do that in a healthy way. I do that in a healthy way. Because they don't want the guy that's like perfect, or that's not, I mean, the sometimes the guy that's going to do all the right things, go to church, be there working hard for you, but not necessarily have that really vinyasa that's like pull your hair or whatever you're into, like pull your hair and like do that. Sometimes you're not going to be able to, that guy that's just like the perfect guy isn't going to be the guy that gets you off. Does that make sense? So one of the things that might attract women to that is that It's something that not everybody's saying to them.
Mm.
Just like somebody would like, it's probably doing the same thing for that smells are attraction. A guy, women, another aphrodisiac is travel. Another aphrodisiac is creativity. Women love those.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
that darkness, he may be making them aware of a darkness they have. And another thing that's there is women and men have issues too. Women like to fix men
Hmm.
or save them. So, I mean, that's a perfect person to fix.
Mm.
But let's say that's a drug. What is a drug? Drug is something that has a side effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what side effects come with that?
Relying on that person to continue to do that.
But also is like, do you really want to have a kid with that person? Do you really want to rely on that person to give you
Yeah.
and even though the world's changing as far as women wanting security from men money wise, there's still a security element, because security isn't just about money.
Hmm.
It's about helping them feel safe, and it goes both ways, because we're half masculine, half feminine. I mean, we're made up of those two parts.
Right.
So one of the things that's frustrated me for the longest time is when I'll see on social media is like, oh, I could never date any man that uses the word they. I mean, there, and they spell it wrong. And I'm just like,
Wow.
is that like that's at the fucking top of your fucking list?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things I say is like Hitler had fucking perfect grammar.
Mm.
So that could be your top 10.
Yeah.
I'm not fine with that, because a lot of that means it's like somebody that can write good grammar and everything. Communication is power. That means they could have a good job and everything like that. But one of the things Mark Twain said is the beautiful thing about I don't remember the exact quote, but beautiful thing about the English language is that I can spell words differently every time, or something like that.
Hmm.
And that was a great man.
Mm.
I mean, as far as like all the books that he had written and how he used these books to shift the culture. Um, and if somebody was like, I couldn't go out with Mark Twain because he didn't spell shit right. Like it's like that's a small thing. The fact that domestic violence is at a high level and that same thing are in there, I can't, that frustrates me too, that those two things can exist.
Mm.
I mean obviously I'd rather have not have, I'd rather have one exist and not have domestic violence exist.
Yeah.
But the fact that those two things exist, because the ones like out in the open, the bad grammar and everything, it's out in the open.
Mm.
The other one's like hidden, because a lot of people more worry about not what's happening to them, they worry about what's happening to society. That's why I think Bill Gates' wife, and this is me thinking this, that's why I think Bill Gates' wife left him, because she knew a lot of things that were going on, but when it got it to the the status quo when it was out there, she couldn't handle it.
Mm.
And because I think she was involved in a lot of stuff that he was doing, like just as much, because she was
Mm.
she was his, people accepted him more socially because of her, because she was doing a lot of things with their organizations and causes and everything, and she was out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I feel like typically society sees females as motherly beings, right? So it's easy for them to just take her positionality and accept it for.
And could Epstein have done what he did without Ghislaine Maxwell?
Probably.
Could Jeffrey Epstein have done what he did without a Ghislaine Maxwell or somebody like that in that situation? A lot of
Mm,
times,
Probably.
those go ahead. What was that?
I said probably not.
It would have been a lot harder for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and to what he did at what extreme we don't know, and we probably will never know. But we know something was happening there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, sorry, her lawyers are trying to do it, and I don't know if a lot of people are doing this as they see her as a victim, and I don't. I see somebody that came from tons of privilege, and she chose to be involved in what she was involved in.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions?
No, but one of the things that kind of came up for me was grief, right? Grieving someone who is no longer your intimate partner and that closure,
So
right?
has this person passed on, or you've broken up?
Broken up.
Okay.
Um,
So what's the last part of that?
and because you brought up like that makeup sex, you brought up that idea that sometimes, you know, that becomes a part of someone. I don't know, it's manifested somehow, some way, right? um I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of having a lot of thoughts in regards to that, and how, I mean, could that ever be avoided? I mean, obviously boundaries become really important. um but what happens when someone is violating and there's no communication, and you know, one of the person or one of the people involved within that old relationship takes action and does something without it being discussed, talked about?
So I want you to use more descriptive words because you're kind of speaking in code, which I do a lot. So
I know. um I don't know how to bring this up. I might need some more time to process my thoughts.
okay. So while you're doing that, let's if anybody has any questions at any point, please put them below.
Mhm.
And even if you're watching this after it's live, please put the questions below. We'll be attentive to that. So when we think about what's going on in this world and we think about what we want in a relationship, we may think all men are like this. And when we think that way, we're attracting those situations because we ultimately have to learn something. One of the things that our old relationships will do when we leave our old relationships in their past, there may have been good things about that we want to attract for our future relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we may remember those things that that person had, and then we'll want to go back to the past, hoping that they have changed. But then we're putting a lot of that same shit in our future. Because the more we complain about that, the more we're attracting and putting that information in our future.
Oh, wow.
So one of the things, the reason why I'm going to say why I don't sue people, and I'm not saying that I would never sue people, because when you sue people, you're on the vibration of victim, or you're on the vibration of anger or whatever that is, and you stay on that vibration while you're going through a court case, and then you attract 10 more situations like that. And then when each one of those situations attracts 10 more situations like that. And once you get to a couple levels of that, you're constantly doing it. And you won't break that cycle until you stop giving that energy.
Hmm.
That's why it's important with the aggressive thing that I was telling you. It's important that you find a healthy way of doing a lot of these kinks so you're not having to find a relationship, whether it's a short-term relationship or whatever it is. You're not finding a relationship that you're going to have all these side effects to.
Hmm.
I think I may have mentioned this before, but I trained myself that I see a woman and then I'll channel into the word like Shorty Want a Thug from Little Wayne, or I Never Trust a Big Button to Smile. When those songs come up, sometimes I'll look at it and I'll say a little connection, but I was like, no, there's something bad there. Let me just trust it. When I say bad, I mean it's something that I'm not looking for.
Mm.
She could be physically beautiful and everything, or I can't date shallow women, even though I may enjoy their company for a short period of time, because when you come together in a relationship, you have your individual identities, but you're also becoming a one person. Even if it's for a short period of time, you're becoming one person. So I have to hide part of who I am.
Mm.
Because if somebody's not, and they don't have to agree with my social causes. They don't have to agree with my social causes. They don't have to listen to everything that's going on with my social causes. But they definitely cannot roll their eyes and not want to talk when I got to get something off of my heart, even if it's a booty call.
Well, damn. I don't think I have a question anymore because you probably already answered it with all that information. I love it. To ask it anymore.
So, what was your interpretation? So, how did that? There was a shift that happened.
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah.
Okay, what shift happened? You don't have to talk about the question. I answered the question. What shift happened? It
We were talking about blind spots the other day. You just kind of let me
yeah,
be one of those blind spots that I was
perfect,
for.
perfect.
So, yeah.
So, so what I would like to do is, and then we can end this up. I like to do like a little meditation, releasing blind spots.
Okay.
So, everybody that's watching this right now or in the future, I want you to connect with us right here, right now. And for me, there's no proper way to meditate.
Hmm.
One of the things that sexual connection gives us, that sexual energy that will grow a baby in a woman's belly, that sexual energy is the same energy that will grow a tree. Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich.
Hmm.
And one of the 6 attributes for that was channeling sexual energy. And we could agree that a lot of that was going on with the Me Too movement is when that is toxic, that sexual energy is toxic. So if we're not aligned with the right sexual energy and being able to harness it in whatever way that we want, we can get stuck in certain patterns. So this will guide us to help us align with what we truly want, mentally, physically, and spiritually. From the sound of my voice, each person that's listening can individually align with what is happening mentally, physically, spiritually. Being able to harness that power right here, right now, from this moment, taking all the lessons that we learned from our past and grounding in this moment to shift
Mm.
and create a compelling future. Noticing from our wisdom, wisdom is knowledge combined with experience. It's not about being older. It's about learning the lessons that you need to know and evolving from those lessons.
Mm.
Feel yourself as a spiritual, sexual, positive being going through life, consenting and setting boundaries, knowing ways to find your healthy kinkiness, aligning with that. Whatever it is, what is your kink? How can you communicate that kink? How can you attract the right relationships that are not like drugs with side effects, but being able to track that pure connection for a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime? Feel yourself aligned with who you truly are in this moment. Stop beating yourself up for mistakes that you made in the past, because from where I'm looking in this bird's eye view, all those mistakes were past experiences that put you in this situation that is loving, amazing, and powerful. Letting go of those situations that no longer serve you from right here, right now, to create a compelling future. Knowing that some of the judgments that society have and some of the stigmas, like pedophilia, are there for a reason. 18 is a good age, but also whether the person's 18 or 40, you want to make sure that they're in a healthy enough place mentally, physically, spiritually, not over intoxicated, but being in a place that they are able to consent, whether they're male or female. Feel yourself overwhelmed with this information, but knowing when you're in the right situation, you will know. Lots of information is coming in there, but you're going to start to let go and only channel into the right information that you need at the right time, because that is true, true wisdom. Mickey wanted to end this. Who's the leader of the pack that's made for you and me? Mickey.
Mickey.
Kinky. Kinky Mouse.
Kinky.
Kinky Mouse. Wherever we will hold our banners high, high, high.
Go ahead, Kinky Mouse.
Hey, Mickey, you started like that. You're a little kink. Did you learn anything? Yeah, I learned not to say anything. That's a good start, Mickey. That is a good start.
I think he's hired to be a part of the music production of this podcast.
Yeah. Have a good one.
You too.
Peace. Thank you.